In my previous life, after being brought back to the Smith family, the fake daughter Linda always framed me. She was articulate, and I couldn't argue with her. I was so angry that I almost died of rage. After being reborn, I simply pretended to be mute. No matter what she said, I just made babbling sounds. But I never expected that from then on, the person who was condemned by everyone became her. Everyone thought she was vicious for bullying a mute. Since then, Linda has fallen into a moral quagmire. And no matter what she does, she will face moral condemnation. I really burst out laughing while making babbling sounds. The fake daughter framed me, and I tried to reason with her. She would say things like, "Everyone, please don't blame my sister. She definitely didn't push me on purpose, and sister already has the love of our parents. I just want to get close to her." With just a few words, she managed to convict me of a crime that I didn't commit. Before I could even get a word in, my mother, who was already extremely biased towards Linda, came up and pushed me. She cried and said she didn't have a vicious daughter like me. I was so stunned by her push that I lost my footing and fell down the stairs. My head hit the edge of the step, and I died on the spot. I was so angry. I was already in a bad mood, and now I was dead. Before I died, I tried hard to recall the last few words my family said to me. It was my mother hugging the fake daughter Linda and pointing at me and scolding. "Speak up. Did you hurt Linda or not? Explain yourself. Are you mute?" "Oh right, mute. If I could live this life again, I would definitely choose to be a mute." When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the eve of being recognized by the Smith family. At that time, I was about to enter my senior year of high school, in order to save up the tuition for college a year later. I was struggling to wash dishes in the back kitchen of a restaurant, and Linda already knew about my existence, just today. She specifically found a few gangsters to cause trouble in the restaurant and take care of me by the way. So, for no apparent reason, I was splashed with water by a few young men with dyed yellow hair who rushed into the back kitchen. They even held my head in the sink and rinsed it for a while. In my previous life, I had nothing but a lot of anger. I finally broke free from their hold, grabbed 2 kitchen knives, and chased the gangsters all the way, trying to slash at them. When I reached the front hall, I just happened to run into the parents of the Smith family who came to recognize me. So, their first impression of me was a crazy woman with disheveled hair, untidy clothes, and a kitchen knife, slashing around. At that time, I didn't know they were my biological parents. When I saw them blocking my way, I gruffly shouted, "Move aside." With just this shout, Mrs. Smith fainted on the spot. After I returned to the Smith family, she doted on the fake daughter who always spoke softly and was gentle and polite to others. From then on, whenever there was a dispute between me and Linda, she always thought I was the one going crazy unilaterally, and her precious Linda had suffered a lot of grievances. This time, since I was reborn, I was determined to turn the tables. I heard the growing commotion in the front hall and quickly locked the door. Then I poured a large bucket of dishwashing liquid back and forth 3 times on the tiled floor at the door and sprinkled some water on it. After that, I hid behind the door. Just then, the voices of the gangsters looking for trouble were getting closer. Their target was me. They wanted to come in and cause trouble for me, but they found that they couldn't turn the lock of the back kitchen door. They were so angry that they kicked and cursed outside the door. The chef, who had already crouched under the table, gave me a thumbs up. However, before he could say the words of praise, he saw my hand gently pull on the door lock. The door opened. The 3 gangsters outside had been kicking the door. They couldn't stop themselves and directly slid in with a sliding tackle motion and fell straight to the ground. I took the opportunity to grab the large aluminum basin for washing vegetables next to me and put it on their heads. Then I picked up a large ladle and started hitting the aluminum basin fiercely. After a few loud bangs, I lifted the aluminum basin. The 3 young men with yellow hair were already rolling their eyes and foaming at the mouth. Seeing this, I was very pleased. I turned around and said to the chef, "It's great to be young. They can fall asleep as soon as they lie down." The chef's mouth twitched, obviously trying to squeeze out a smile at me, but he failed. The gangsters who were keeping watch outside noticed something was wrong. They rushed into the back kitchen. When they saw the 3 lying on the ground, they immediately became furious. They picked up the sticks in their hands and wanted to come over and teach me a lesson. I guessed that the time was almost up. Suddenly, I picked up a basin of water next to me. The gangsters thought I was going to splash them, so they all took a step back. But I gritted my teeth and poured all the water on myself. Then I pulled my hair apart and slapped myself twice hard. Red and swollen finger marks immediately appeared on my fair cheeks. The gangsters were stunned by my actions. The next second, I started to distort my facial features, crawled on the ground, moving in a dark and rapid manner. I rushed up to the gangster in the front and stretched out my finger to poke straight at his navel. Goodness me, help! That gangster completely broke down, dropped the stick in his hand, and ran outside. The other gangsters also ran after him. I chased after them, using my hands and feet and wagging my tongue. They were so focused on running for their lives that they didn't notice that when I reached the front hall, I had already returned to normal. My hair was wet and stuck to my face smoothly. There were still injuries on my small face. My eyes were red and wet. There were tears in my eyes, and I hugged myself with my arms. I was still trembling slightly. It was in such an image that I bumped into the Smith family couple who came to recognize me. I trotted with my head down, and soft sobs escaped from my throat. After the Smith family couple stopped me, before they could even ask a question, I rolled my eyes and fainted directly. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. As soon as I opened my eyes, I saw Mrs. Smith standing by my window. She held my hand, and her eyes were still red. As if she had just cried, she said, "Riley, you've suffered a lot. From now on, you are our daughter, and you don't have to go to such a dangerous place anymore." I looked up and met her eager eyes. I opened my mouth as if I wanted to say something. After a long while, I could only make a few inarticulate, and sounds. Mrs. Smith's eyes suddenly panicked, and she quickly called the doctor to examine me. Of course, the doctor couldn't find anything wrong, because I was pretending. In the end, he could only say that it might be that my language function was impaired due to excessive fright. After a period of good rest and without letting me be stimulated again, I should be able to recover. After hearing this, Mrs. Smith felt even more distressed. She hugged me and cried bitterly, full of regret. If only I could have arrived earlier. "It's all our fault." Mr. Smith beside her also quietly had red eyes, and the look of distress on his face didn't seem to be fake, and I curled up the corners of my mouth where they couldn't see. It turns out that sometimes, not speaking is really more effective than speaking. You just need to play the role of a silent victim, and leave the rest to others to imagine. I'm getting more and more looking forward to meeting Linda in this life. I wonder if in this life, she can still easily arouse everyone's resentment towards me with just a few words and leave me speechless. On the day I returned to the Smith family, Linda had already made preparations at home early. She was wearing a princess dress, and any one of her accessories was more expensive than all my expenses in the past 17 years. As soon as she saw me, she warmly welcomed me and opened her arms to give me a hug, but I took 2 steps back and avoided it. Linda's hand froze in midair, and a look of sadness and grievance immediately filled her delicate little face. But if you looked closely, there was a deep sense of surprise hidden in her eyes. That's right. How could she not be happy to meet an opponent like me who was eager to give her opportunities to show off right from the start, especially when she saw me take 2 steps back, lower my head, and start playing with my phone? Linda's grievance became even stronger. She raised her face with red eyes towards Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and her voice was already choked up when she spoke. "Does Riley not like me? She doesn't want to talk to me either. If she thinks I've taken her place in the family, I can leave. Mom and Dad, I don't mind." After saying this, she sniffled and turned her head away, pretending to be strong, but she didn't see the sudden change in Mr. Smith's expression. Just now, on the phone screen that I handed to the Smith family parents, there was a pre-typed message: "I haven't recovered from my fever yet, and I'm afraid of infecting Linda. Also, her clothes are so expensive, and she's so beautiful. I'm afraid I'll dirty her clothes." That's right. From the moment the Smith family parents met me until now, so many unexpected things had happened. They were in a hurry to take me back to the Smith family to recognize me, and there wasn't enough time for me to change into clean clothes. I was wearing a hospital gown inside, and outside was still that dirty coat stained with oil stains from washing dishes in the back kitchen, and in front of me, I, who had become mute because the Smith family parents came too late, stood next to the glamorous Linda. Linda could still feel wronged because she suspected that I didn't accept her, while I didn't even dare to get close to her for fear of dirtying her expensive clothes. Mrs. Smith couldn't hold on any longer. She buried her face in her hands and burst into tears. The Smith family parents' guilt was once again aroused. I achieved my goal and turned around to pull Linda Although Linda was a bit puzzled by Mrs. Smith's reaction today, instead of being angry with me, she was crying there, but she didn't have time to think too much. I had already reached out to pull her. It was reasonable that I accidentally pulled a red mark on her wrist because I was in a hurry. After Linda let out a cry of surprise, she finally burst into tears. "Riley, I know you hate me and resent me for taking over your life. I'll leave now. Don't blame Mom and Dad." She continued to act on her own. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Mr. Smith's face getting darker and darker. The excitement in her eyes was almost impossible to hide. "Enough." Mr. Smith beside us finally couldn't hold back and shouted. He walked quickly towards us. Based on my understanding of Linda, at this moment, she must be excitedly counting down the time in her heart, waiting for Mr. Smith to come and deal with me. However, the next second, Mr. Smith reached out his hand and pulled Linda away. He shouted at her with an unhappy expression, "She can't speak. She's so anxious. You just kept misunderstanding her on your own." Linda was stunned on the spot, and I cooperatively gestured with the sign language I made up on the spot, hiding behind Mr. Smith and making babbling sounds at Linda, where only she could see. I showed her a proud smile. "What should I do, Linda? The parents who raised you for 17 years don't seem to be unconditionally on your side anymore. In this life." Linda's first meeting with me ended with her complete defeat. That night, when I was going back to my room, Linda suddenly grabbed my arm. She whispered in my ear, "Riley, you're just a bumpkin from the slums, and you're a mute. You don't deserve to stay in the Smith family. If I were you, I would have left in shame long ago." I rolled my eyes at her and imitated her tone. "Ababa ababa ababa." So Linda had the experience of being mocked by a mute for the first time in her life. She clenched and unclenched her fists by her side. In the end, considering the loss she suffered at my hands during the day, she didn't do anything. The next day, my brother Sam, who was studying abroad, suddenly came back. He was the only one in the Smith family who was close to me in my previous life. Thinking of him, I couldn't help feeling a little excited the moment Sam entered the door. I pounced on him like a black bear and teleported in front of him. "Damn it, what is this?" Sam was so scared that he dropped his suitcase and started running wildly in the living room. I used my hands and feet and chased after him vigorously. It wasn't until I pinned Sam to the ground that he looked at me and blurted out, "Damn it, Riley." At that moment, I was sure that Sam was also reborn. Sam asked me why I was mute. I put away my smile and lowered my head, thinking about how to explain it to him. He immediately clenched his fists tightly and said, "Was it that scheming woman Linda again? Wait for me to deal with her." Sam had disliked Linda for a long time. Since he was a child, Sam had been told to let his younger sister have her way because he was older than Linda. Linda liked to pretend to be a princess and asked Sam to pretend to be a prince for her. But Sam only wanted to pretend to be Spider-Man. When he refused, Linda would cry, and Sam would get beaten. The more Linda cried, the more stubborn Sam became. Later, Sam hated Linda just by hearing her name. At that time, he was already suspecting that Linda wasn't the Smith family's biological daughter. In his own words, the Smith family's genes can't produce someone with so many tricks. In my previous life, when I was framed by Linda, only Sam would stand up for me. But the Smith family parents knew that Sam had disliked Linda since he was a child. They never cared about Sam's accusations against Linda and even felt more sorry for Linda's situation in the Smith family. In my previous life, my brother and I were both stubborn and bad at arguing. The two of us together couldn't outwit Linda. Fortunately, the situation is different now. Neither Sam nor I am the same person as before. Sam told me that he had undergone special training in arguing, and now he is the enhanced version of Sam. During dinner in the evening, Linda, as usual, squeezed next to Mrs. Smith and bumped me away with her hip. Before she sat down, she even gave me a triumphant look. Before she could say anything, Sam slapped his chopsticks on the table with a bang. "You're snatching seats and our parents. Do you have any manners, Sam? How can you talk to Linda like that? We're a family having a harmonious meal. Why are you getting angry at your sister?" Mrs. Smith was a bit unhappy upon hearing this. Sam pursed his lips, pulled me over from the opposite side, and pressed me into his arms. "My poor sister, you've been hurt so much that you can't even speak. And now, when having a meal, you're even being pushed out of your seat. I saw it all. You wanted to sit beside Mom so much that your eyes were red." Linda was also aggrieved. "But brother, I've always sat beside Mom." "Brother, brother, who's your brother? I won't randomly be the brother of a girl who has no blood relation and no manners. As Sam spoke, he pinched my arm hard. I immediately nestled in his arms and started crying. Woohoo! Mrs. Smith didn't react at first, but seeing this, she quickly patted the seat on her other side and softly called me to sit there. Just as I was about to get up, Sam grabbed me. We're not going to take this, little sister, be good. We're not going to put up with this, you're like a little dog soaked in the rain. An option E, the sixth one in the fifth row, a spare button on a suit. We're not going to be someone else's plan B. These words made Mrs. Smith feel even more guilty, and Linda felt as if she were sitting on pins and needles. Seeing that the situation was very favorable, Sam wanted to follow up on his success. Mr. Smith slapped the table at the right moment. All right, let's eat first. Although we started eating, Sam and I were determined to make things difficult for everyone. The atmosphere during the meal was not pleasant. When Linda tried to curry favor with Mr. and Mrs. Smith and picked up a chopstick full of food, Sam would put a chopstick full of food into my bowl. At the same time, he sighed and said, "My poor sister, you've endured so much suffering for others before. Now that you're finally home, come on, eat something good." Halfway through the meal, Linda's face turned green. Finally, she put down her chopsticks and said timidly to Sam, "Brother, are you targeting me because of Riley?" After saying that, she lowered her head and had just started to work up her emotions. The sound of sobbing began. It wasn't her crying, it was me. Under the astonished gazes of everyone, while wiping my tears, I typed, "In the past, whenever I ate one more mouthful of food, my adoptive father would beat me. It turns out that having family feels so good. Oh my goodness, my sister, as the daughter of the Smith family, actually didn't even get to eat a few good dishes before, and she was even beaten severely. Look, the daughter of the person who beat you is being raised fat and white in our family, while you've hardly got any flesh on you." Sam picked me up and started wailing. Linda's sobs got stuck in her throat, unable to come out, but Mrs. Smith's tears had already welled up. Seeing that the meal was almost impossible to continue, in the end, Mr. Smith came out to smooth things over. Since both sides were dear to him, he pointed the finger at Sam. "You've talked too much today. What did we teach you before? Don't talk during meals and don't talk when you're going to bed. What's wrong with talking more?" Sam, who had been reborn, was no longer submissive. He stuck out his neck and said to Mr. Smith, "Riley can't even speak. Do you want her to keep suffering in silence? Is there anything wrong with me expressing what's in her heart?" Mr. Smith was stunned by his words. Then, he belatedly observed my expression. He still didn't seem to be used to the fact that I was mute. He always thought that my silence meant acquiescence and obedience. "Riley, have Mom and Dad made you feel wrong these days at home?" For the first time, he asked such a question. In my previous life, with both Sam and I speaking, we still couldn't match Linda's act of crying and playing the victim. In this life, now that I'm mute, they are instead willing to respect my opinion. I thought the scene was really ridiculous and couldn't help wanting to grin, but Sam tapped me on the head with a chopstick. I quickly lowered my head and continued to whimper. After a long while, Mr. Smith let out a sigh. I knew that he was wavering. Mr. Smith was different from Mrs. Smith. In Mr. Smith's heart, he had always valued blood relations more. In my previous life, his attitude towards me was always a bit better than that towards Linda, however. After all, Linda was also the one he had doted on and raised. There were some things he couldn't make a decision about immediately, but now that Linda's existence was making me, whom they already owed, feel wronged, Mr. Smith would also reconsider whether Linda should stay or leave. Linda, of course, also knew this. She couldn't sit still anymore. Early the next morning, she knocked on my door. Holding a pile of famous brand clothes and bags, she said to me, "Sister, I'll return everything that I took from you. Please don't take away Mom and Dad's love for me." "Okay." Seeing that I didn't respond, Linda became a bit anxious. She took a step closer to me and whispered in my ear, "Riley, don't think you're great just because Sam is helping you. I can still make it impossible for you to stay in this house." After saying that, she looked me up and down with a sneer. "You're so seductive. Did your adoptive father sleep with you?" Ah. This scream was because she found that my hand was vigorously poking at her navel. Now that I'm a mute, I can't argue with her verbally. I can only use strange behavior to stop her from saying such strange things. Linda couldn't stand this kind of behavior. She slapped at me, but I grabbed her hand and we danced a round dance. The next second, I grinned at her. If you talk nonsense, you're going to suffer a lot. I ruffled my hair, rolled my eyes, stepped back, jumped up, crawled around in a strange way, screamed, shrieked like a monkey, drank some crazy monkey juice, pounced on her using my hands and feet, and pulled her hair vigorously. I had often fought with my adoptive father, so I had a lot of muscles. This time, I just gently pulled at Linda's bangs. And she was directly pulled out a tuft of hair by me, revealing a patch of scalp the size of a thumb. Linda's tears welled up from the pain, looking at me, who was still acting like a crazy monkey. She was filled with horror. She didn't care about framing me anymore. She turned around and ran outside. When she reached the stairs, I pounced and jumped onto her back. Linda heard the commotion, turned around, and instinctively pushed me. I fell down the stairs. Then Sam, who was rushing over with our parents, caught me. I took the opportunity to nestle in his arms and let out a few sobs. When I raised my head again, I was once again in a state of being weak, helpless, and pitiful. Linda, Sam protected me in his arms and shouted at her, "You're so vicious. Riley has already given everything to you. Why can't you leave her alone?" Linda stood there stunned. These were the lines she had originally prepared for herself, but now Sam was asking her these questions. It's not like that. Linda was dazed and wanted to defend herself. Her eyes became excited when they met mine. It's her. As soon as I came in, she went crazy at me. "Riley is a psycho." Linda, apologize to your sister. This time, it wasn't just Sam who was angry. Mr. Smith's furious shout brought Linda's already broken rationality back. She really had the nerve. In someone else's house. She called their biological daughter a psycho. How dare she say such things? She must be courting death. Linda trembled violently. After meeting the disappointed looks of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, her face turned ashen. On that day, Linda didn't go out. She knelt at the stairs of the house all day long. In my previous life, the one who knelt there was me. I couldn't help but slap her after being provoked by Linda. In the middle of the night, after finishing my homework, I went to the kitchen to heat some milk. When I passed by Mr. and Mrs. Smith's room, I heard their voices discussing inside. Linda is not our biological child after all. We've supported her for so many years, but she harbors hostility towards Riley. It's really unfair to Riley if this continues. This was Mr. Smith's voice. Let's wait a bit longer. She just can't accept it for the moment. It's not her fault that she was switched at birth. We've watched this child grow up. If you send her away, I'll be heartbroken too. Mrs. Smith's voice was a bit choked up. I turned around, picked up the milk, and went straight back to my room. When I passed by Linda, who was already dozing off leaning against the stairs, I couldn't resist kicking her awake. When Linda opened her sleepy eyes and started looking for who had kicked her, I was already lying on the bed, looking at the ceiling. The more I thought about it, the more speechless I felt, and I started rolling my eyes. I rolled one, then another, then another. I rolled my eyes the whole night. The next day, when I woke up, my eyelids were twitching whenever I looked at anyone. Seeing this, Sam felt even more distressed. He hugged me and started crying. "My goodness, my poor sister, you must have been wronged yesterday and cried the whole night. Look, your eyelids are twitching from crying. Oh my God, who can help this helpless girl? It's all right. If Mom and Dad won't stand up for you, your brother's embrace will always be here for you." Mr. and Mrs. Smith were so annoyed by his crying that they quickly finished their breakfast and left the house as if running away. As soon as they left, Sam let go of me. He finished his breakfast in 2 or 3 bites, then he scratched my palm and winked at me. I understood and slipped back to the room with him. Sam asked me what I planned to do in the future. I thought about it seriously and told him, "I'm going to have a big celebration for my 80th birthday and plan to invite 50 male models to perform a striptease." "Who asked you about something so far away?" "Damn it, wait a minute, Riley, you can talk." Sam became excited all of a sudden. Only then did I realize that I had overacted during the day before and forgot to tell Sam, unexpectedly. The next moment, Sam gave me a thumbs up. "That's great. You've become smarter. You even tricked your own brother with your acting." After that, he put his hands on my shoulders and said seriously, "Listen, we have to get rid of Linda, otherwise, you'll be in danger. It's such a hard-won opportunity. Riley, don't let anyone harm you again in this life." At that moment, I saw a glimmer of tears in his eyes. When I died in my previous life, Sam was still studying abroad. he didn't make it in time to see me for the last time. I don't know what happened to him after that. I only know that whether in the previous life or this life, he is the only one in this family who accepts me without any conditions. I'm willing to trust him unconditionally, even if I go crazy. I want to bring him along with me. Sam said that he came back specifically for me this time. For this, he directly took a half-year leave from his school abroad and was determined to stay at home to protect me. When Mr. Smith found out, he almost used the family rules to beat him to death. I told Sam to go back. I can protect myself now. And his future shouldn't be delayed because of me. But Sam said that it's one thing for me to be able to protect myself, and it's another thing for him, as a brother, to protect his sister. He asked me, "Riley, do you believe in karma in this world?" I was stunned by his question. Before I could answer, he had already changed the subject. "You definitely don't know this." As Sam spoke, he ruffled my hair vigorously. "The first time I saw you, I knew you were my biological sister. At that time, I decided to protect you. Blood relations are sometimes really that magical." At that moment, I had an urge to cry. I think fate still favors me after all. Even though my life has been full of hardships, God still gave me such a wonderful brother. With Sam at home, it's really difficult for Linda to cause trouble again. She can't outdo Sam when it comes to crying pitifully, and she can't pretend to be weaker than me. If she wants to frame me, Sam installed 12 cameras at my bedroom door. The main thing is to be flawless, so she can only wait, just like in the previous life, waiting for the opportunity to push me completely into hell. The day before the start of the senior year of high school, Mr. and Mrs. Smith held a recognition party for me. This banquet invited almost all the wealthy families in South City. This also meant that Linda's friends from the second-generation wealthy families would all come. They grew up together and later went to the same high school. The original intention of Mr. and Mrs. Smith was to let me get familiar with my new classmates through this opportunity. When I officially transferred to South City No. 1 High School, I could also get their care, but these second-generation wealthy kids, under the pretext of getting closer to me, took me aside and taunted me. Later, they pushed me into the swimming pool. My white dress was soaked. When I went upstairs to change clothes, I was dragged into a room by the second-generation kids who were lying in wait there with Linda, and they took a video of me. After that, I called the police, but the parents of these second-generation kids suppressed it with their power and influence. The Smith family's business was also affected because of this, and Mr. and Mrs. Smith liked me even less. This recognition party in this life was held as scheduled. When Linda walked in with her group of spoiled friends, I still couldn't help but catch my breath. That's when Sam walked over, put his arm around my shoulder, and led me to them to introduce me. "Brother Sam, how did you find the time to come back?" The leading boy, with yellow hair, greeted Sam in a casual manner when he saw him. His name was Neil, and he was the sports committee member in Linda's class. Neil saw himself as a messenger of justice. As soon as Linda went to complain to him about me, he couldn't wait to stand up for her. In my previous life, it was he who used the video to threaten me. After I transferred to South City No. 1 High School, he bullied me again and again. He isolated me verbally, played pranks on me, and beat me up. The more fiercely I resisted, the worse they bullied me. It wasn't until finally, I secretly brought a knife to school and put it against Neil's neck, intending to die together with him, that they finally stopped. But by then, my studies had already been delayed a lot. Linda eventually got into a top university in the country and became the pride of the Smith family, and I could only repeat my senior year of high school and was disliked by my parents and teachers. The really ridiculous thing was that Neil later achieved great success in his career and even wrote me an apology letter. He said that he was young and ignorant and impulsive back then and had done something wrong to me and hoped to get my forgiveness. I read that letter over and over again. I didn't see any sincere repentance from a perpetrator towards a victim. I only felt the eagerness of a successful person to erase the only stain in his life. Sam took us to the open-air swimming pool and then left. As soon as he left, these second-generation wealthy kids became completely unrestrained. Neil stared at me intently and whistled. "I heard that you used to wash dishes for others in XA district. If we don't have enough money when we go out in the future, can we just ask you to stay and wash dishes to pay off the debt?" As soon as his words fell, this group of rich second-generation kids burst into laughter immediately. They were about to say something more, but I slowly walked up to Neil under their gazes. I took off the thick-heeled shoes on my feet in front of them. The excitement made me couldn't help rolling my eyes and even my nostrils widened. I counted down in my heart, 3, 2, 1, ugh, time to go crazy. The hustle and bustle of the main venue isolated the screams from the swimming pool area. When Sam came over, twisting Linda's arm, I was riding on Neil, holding the heel of the shoe and pounding his head. The other several rich second-generation kids were sprawled in the swimming pool. When they saw Sam, they were like seeing a savior, instantly. They started crying out for their parents, with tears of fright in their eyes. Linda, Neil roared, lying on the floor, you didn't say that your sister is a monster. Sam made such a commotion that before the adults came, I dropped the shoe in my hand, and then sobbed and hid behind Sam with a whimper. The rich second-generation kids who had just climbed out of the swimming pool couldn't help twitching their mouths violently when they saw my pitiful, weak, and helpless appearance. Sam. What are you doing? Let go of your sister quickly. Mrs. Smith hurried over from the side and anxiously patted the hand that Sam used to grab Linda. Let her go. Sam looked around at everyone and said coldly, you want me to let go of this imposter who stole someone else's place and let her continue to hurt my sister? Upon hearing this, Linda's face suddenly turned pale. Whispering sounds also broke out among the surrounding crowd. The Smith family had been announcing to the outside world that Linda and I were twins, but I was accidentally lost when I was a child. I'm afraid Linda never expected that her identity as a fake daughter would be exposed in such a way. What are you talking about? Mrs. Smith was slightly taken aback upon hearing this, but she was still worried about Linda and asked Sam to let go first. Just as the two were tugging, Mr. Smith walked straight up to Sam from the crowd, without saying a word. He raised his palm high. It seemed that this slap was about to land on Sam's face. The next moment, I stood out from behind Sam and spread my arms to block in front of Sam. Riley, get out of the way, Mr. Smith ordered me in a low voice. Listen to his explanation. I mouthed to Mr. Smith and confronted him silently. In the end, it was still Mr. Smith who made the compromise. He took a step back and first asked someone to lead the onlookers around back to the main venue before he said somewhat wearily, all right, tell me, what happened? Sam didn't say anything but took out his phone and played a video. This was a scene secretly filmed by him hidden in the wardrobe on the second floor. In the video, Linda and several wealthy kids were standing at the door, discussing how they were going to deal with me later. Strip that bitch naked and take pictures of her. Everyone gets a copy. Let's see if she still dares to oppose you in the future, said the voice of one of the boys. Exactly, a slut who was just brought back from the slums and used to wash dishes dares to compete with you, Sister Linda. This time we must teach her a lesson. The voices of them vying to show their loyalty rang out. Finally, it was Linda who spoke. I just want her to learn a lesson. You guys don't go too far. Sigh. After that, she sighed again. Riley has gone bad after being outside these years. She should learn some rules. With each passing second of the video, Linda's face became paler. At the end of the video, Sam released the hand that was holding her, and Linda knelt straight on the ground. Her lips were trembling, her face was deathly pale, and tears streamed down her face without restraint. Dad, Mom, please forgive me. She glanced at Mr. Smith's expression and finally crawled all the way to Mrs. Smith's feet, hugging her ankle and wailing, I'm just so afraid of losing you. After Riley came back, you haven't looked at me properly. I have nothing left except you. People were still constantly looking over from the main venue. After this happened, Mr. Smith's face was livid, and Mrs. Smith's expression was also unpleasant. However, faced with Linda's tearful confession, they ultimately couldn't make a decision. I'm going to call the police. Sam spoke up at this moment. He pointed at these second-generation kids present. Not just Linda, but also these people, the ones who conspired with her to ruin my sister together. I won't let any of them go. No way. Why not? The voices of Mr. Smith and Neil sounded at the same time. Damn it, Neil, who had gotten up from the ground, cursed. It has nothing to do with me. Otherwise, what? Sam looked at the messy scene, pulled me out from behind him, and shouted at them. My sister's clothes are all wet. Do you mean that just now my sister, alone, was bullying a group of you men? Neil was speechless for a moment. After a while, he turned his gaze to me and roared at me, Riley, say something. I didn't bully you. How dare you do something but not admit it? Are you mute? So, under his fierce gaze, I nodded gently. Then I made some gestures with sign language. Yes, I'm mute. Neil was stunned, and the group of rich second-generation kids behind him were also stunned. Sam took off his coat and wrapped it around me. He sneered and said, "After my sister was switched at birth, she was always abused by Linda's biological father. She couldn't even have enough to eat or wear since she was a child. Right after finishing her second year of high school, she had to go to a restaurant to wash dishes to save up for her college tuition. Even so, some people still wouldn't let her go." After saying that, he gave Linda, who was lying on the ground, a fierce glare. The latter shuddered when she felt the gaze and shrank slightly behind Mrs. Smith, pulling me behind him again. Sam continued, "On the day my sister was recognized and brought home, someone sent a group of gangsters to the restaurant where she worked part-time to cause trouble. They brutally abused my sister and sent her to the hospital, and it also left her with a psychological shadow, making her unable to speak ever since." As he spoke, he walked up to Neil and asked him in a deep voice, "Neil, you've always liked to stand up for others, but what you're doing now, how is it any different from those gangsters? Aren't you really afraid of retribution?" Neil couldn't hold it together. This was completely different from the version of the story he had heard from Linda. He had heard a story about a girl who grew up in the slums, had a lot of bad habits, and was not honest. She was recognized and brought home and then bullied her sister and showed off her power at home. Taking advantage of her parents' guilt towards her, his gaze became a bit dull, and he almost mechanically turned to Linda. Linda lowered her head guiltily and didn't dare to meet his gaze. At that moment, he understood everything. Damn it, so it's like this. If I really bullied her, I'd have to get up in the middle of the night and slap myself hard. The one who was shouting the loudest just now was Neil. We were all led by him. If he really has a conscience, he won't be able to sleep with his eyes closed tonight. Some of the rich second-generation kids whispered behind Neil. Several gazes fell on Neil. He also felt embarrassed. Gritting his teeth, he walked up to Sam and slapped himself hard, then bowed. "Brother Sam, I'm sorry to your sister about what happened today. In the future, at school, I'll be responsible for your sister's safety. No one will be able to bully her." Since he had said this, Sam didn't pursue the matter further after all. More importantly, Linda made Neil lose face in public this time. In the future, wherever Linda is, Neil won't let her off. Rather than attracting hatred to himself, Sam is more willing to watch them fight among themselves. "I have to say, my brother is really naughty. Fortunately, I'm also the same kind of person." The matter with Neil was resolved, and the only thing left was Linda's. Sam insisted on calling the police, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith firmly disagreed at first. After seeing my disappointed look, their attitudes began to waver. In the end, we each took a step back. They asked Sam to give up seeking justice for me on the condition that they would send Linda away. "Riley, I know you feel wronged. Since Linda did something wrong, she should pay the price." This time, Mr. Smith squatted in front of me. He looked much older and no longer had his previous high and mighty posture. He patiently explained to me, "But this is after all a family scandal. If it gets out, it will only affect the business of the Smith family. The company will belong to you and Sam in the future. When you reach my position, you will naturally understand." I lowered my head in silence, which was a kind of acquiescence to his words. After all, the decision Mr. Smith had made was difficult to change easily. Mrs. Smith, on the other hand, kept covering her face and crying beside me. She told me that she didn't know that Linda was behind the incident at the restaurant. This time, she would definitely not forgive Linda again. When Linda graduated from high school, they would completely cut off relations with her. Mr. and Mrs. Smith of the Smith family were very efficient. They found a place for Linda to live and sent her away from the Smith family as quickly as possible. However, unexpectedly, on the first day Linda moved there, she committed suicide by taking medicine. Before falling into a coma, she made one last phone call to Mrs. Smith. On the phone, Linda was crying so much that her voice was unsteady, but she still didn't forget to express her true feelings to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. She said, "I was so afraid of losing you before that I did many wrong things. Now I'm going to heaven to atone for my sins." The last thing she said on the phone was, "Dad, Mom, I love you." The psychological defense Mrs. Smith had just built up collapsed again. She rushed to Linda's home as quickly as possible and sent her to the hospital for emergency treatment. In fact, Linda didn't take a large amount of sleeping pills. The doctor pumped her stomach. She woke up not long after. As soon as she woke up, she hugged Mrs. Smith, who was guarding by the bed, and they cried together. In Mrs. Smith's heart, Linda was after all the daughter she had raised for so many years. Deep down, she always felt that Linda's character could still be saved, and she really couldn't bear to see Linda suffer. After that, Mrs. Smith often secretly went to see her. Because of the suicide attempt, Linda missed the start of the senior year of high school. When she returned to school, I had already gotten along well with my classmates in the class. When she came to the class, I was sharing my study experience with everyone as the first place in the weekly exam. According to the class convention, me, ababa, well said, Neil was the first to clap when he saw Linda. The classmates in the audience were almost moved to tears. And Linda stood pale-faced at the door of the class, and no one paid attention to her. Perhaps Neil really had said something behind the scenes, or perhaps the news about the real and fake daughters at the recognition banquet had spread, and some students were reminded by their parents to give me special care. In short, in this life, my days at South City No. 1 High School were very comfortable. It was even more comfortable than putting on a new pair of underwear after having shit in my pants for 3 days. At least I could finally focus on preparing for the college entrance examination sprint. In contrast, Linda's days were much harder. She offended Neil and was kicked out of their second-generation wealthy kids small group. And I don't know who spread the rumor on campus that she, as a fake daughter, had secretly harmed the real daughter several times. Wherever Linda went, people would point at her and talk about her. Everything I had experienced in my previous life had now all fallen on her in this life. So, after the first joint examination, I successfully ranked third in the grade at South City No. 1 High School. This was a result that, if maintained, could ensure that I would be admitted to one of the top 5 universities. However, Linda fell from her pedestal, and her grades dropped all the way to outside the top 700. On the day the rankings were announced, the group of Linda's so-called sisters from the previous life stood in front of the ranking list and taunted Linda with sneers. She really thought she was a young lady from a wealthy family. A slut is just a slut. In the future, she'll only be worthy of going to a lousy university. The mocking laughter kept ringing out. Linda didn't refute, she just turned around, locked her gaze on me from a distance in the crowd, and gave me a cold smile. "It's not over yet," she mouthed to me. So, when I left school the next day, as soon as I walked out of the school gate, I was pulled into an alley next to the school by several familiar young gangsters. It was still the same old routine, and there were still the familiar guys with yellow hair. I looked at a group of young gangsters in front of me in horror, and behind them, there was an even larger group of security guards from South City No. 1 High School, and students. "Little sister, it's your fault for offending someone you shouldn't have." The young gangster was still talking to himself in front. Seeing this, I shook my head vigorously. Instead, they laughed. "Now you're scared. Why were you so brave when you put an aluminum basin on someone's head before?" As he spoke, he squatted down and patted my face, took out his phone, and sneered, "Don't worry, bro, we'll just take some exciting videos of you. I won't hurt you too much. Ha ha ha." The was because he was kicked by the security guard uncle from behind. Now it was the young gangster's turn to look back in horror. Then they saw the security team of our school, each holding an electric stun baton. It was almost a crushing victory. When they were detained in the security room, the security guard uncle kept praising me. "Little girl, you're really smart. You informed us in advance. Now we've exceeded our monthly performance target." Looking at these familiar gangster faces, I still felt uneasy in my heart, until the phone rang. I clicked to answer it and heard Mrs. Smith's heartrending cry, "Riley, come to the hospital quickly. Something has happened to Sam." The phone fell to the ground, and the anti-peeping screen, which cost only 9 yuan with free shipping, shattered into a spider web pattern. I walked towards the hospital in a daze. On the way, I recalled the days I had spent with Sam recently. My mind was full of his mischievous smile. Although he was sometimes a bit odd, his kindness to me was never fake. He said to me, "Riley, there's a kind of tacit understanding between siblings. The month I've spent with you is more comfortable than the 17 years I spent with Linda in the past." He said, "You're the one who understands me the best in this world. When I graduate from university, I'll give you half of the world I've worked hard for." He also said, "There's no such thing as a brother who doesn't protect his sister, no matter how strong you are. In my eyes, you're just a little girl no bigger than a stinky egg." So, on the way when Neil informed him to come and protect me, something happened to him. I have to say, Linda really knows me. She knows what kind of thing can make me feel the most heartbroken. For me, if my self-esteem is destroyed, sooner or later, I will find another way on my own and become strong again. If my studies are destroyed, I will also accept the reality and keep working hard after the pain, or if my family affection is destroyed, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith don't love me, and I don't love them either, so she chose to destroy my brother, the only brother in this world who is willing to protect me and love me without asking me to pay any price, the only warmth I have in this world. The brother who is connected to me by blood and keeps my miserable life from being crushed, my brother Sam, who, once destroyed, will never be replaced by a second one. Linda drove into him on his way here. She wanted to die with Sam, but Linda only suffered minor injuries, while Sam's car flipped off the highway bridge. When I rushed to the hospital, Sam had already been sent to the intensive care unit. Mrs. Smith leaned on Mr. Smith and cried almost heartbreakingly, "Why haven't I been good enough to her? Why does she still want to take revenge on my son?" As soon as I got a little closer, I could hear her mournful questioning. Unfortunately, Linda had already been taken away by the police and couldn't answer her question. As soon as Mrs. Smith saw me, she regarded me as a savior and grabbed my hand. Riley, Sam is closest to you on a daily basis. Go and call him. Keep calling him brother. Maybe he'll wake up." Mrs. Smith almost collapsed to the ground and begged me. I looked at her coldly. After a long while, I shook off her hand. Annoying, this was the only word that came out of my mouth. It was her repeated indulgence that raised Linda, this viper, and in the end, it hurt my brother. After saying that, I ignored their astonished expressions. I turned around and pressed against the glass wall, looking inside at Sam, who was unconscious with all kinds of instruments attached to his body. A sense of unreal dizziness came over me. Yesterday, Sam was still telling me that when I went to college, he would roast the orchid roots at home as if they were potatoes. He wanted to see what kind of reaction Mr. Smith would have when he got angry. And now, he was lying there, his life and death uncertain. The world started spinning around me. In a trance, I saw Sam waving at me. As soon as I took a small step towards him, I fainted. I had a very long and strange dream. In the dream, Sam was saying goodbye to me. He said that he actually shouldn't have come here. I silently agreed in my heart. If he hadn't come, nothing would have happened to him. But then Sam knocked on my head. He said, "Riley, think again. How did you get back here?" I was knocked so that my mind became clear. I suddenly remembered that after I died in my previous life, my soul lingered for a long time. In fact, I held on until Sam came back. I heard him say that the thing he regretted the most in his life was that he couldn't fulfill his duty as a brother. He let his sister be bullied by others, but at least he could avenge me, so he killed Linda and sacrificed her life. In exchange, he got the opportunity for me to have a do-over, and now, he was going back. I asked him what he was going back for, and he told me confidently, "I'm going back to prison." I was shocked beyond measure by his strong sense of the law, but Sam told me that this was karma. In his world, whatever he did to Linda, he needed to pay it back in the same way in this world, and I was kept out of the cycle of karma by him. By the way, he suddenly remembered something and said to me, "Anyway, I'm going back first, little sister." After saying that, Sam patted his buttocks, stood up, and waved at me. He said, "From now on, we'll be living in different time and space. In different worlds. Don't end up so bad that I can laugh at you." I suddenly stood up and wanted to hold him back, but all I could see in front of me was a vast expanse of white. Sam had disappeared. Sam's death was a great blow to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. In contrast, I seemed very calm, so calm that Sam's funeral was all arranged by me, his sister who had just turned 18. There were many voices questioning my coldness and lack of sentiment during this period. I ignored all of them. After holding his funeral, I began to immerse myself in reviewing my studies like crazy. It was not until I received the admission notice from the top university in the country that I finally let out a sigh of relief. On the day I decided to leave South City, I went to visit Linda in prison. She was sentenced to life imprisonment for intentional homicide. Mrs. Smith had once visited her. She wanted to know what she had done to let Linda down. Why did Linda want to hurt her son so much? But Linda just laughed wildly and cursed at her. She said, "It's all your fault for being biased. Everything is what you asked for. This is the retribution for your favoritism towards that fake victim Riley. You deserve it. Ha ha ha." Mrs. Smith was so devastated that she wanted to strangle Linda, but was stopped by the prison guards. After that, she never visited Linda again. She didn't visit Linda, and I didn't visit her either. After Sam's accident, I moved out of the Smith family. Mr. and Mrs. Smith only had me left now, and they suddenly started to be afraid that I would also leave them. Mrs. Smith cried and poured out her feelings to me day and night. After I blocked her, she only dared to ask about my well-being through the additional remarks when Mr. Smith transferred my living expenses to me every month. They wanted to compensate me with all the love that they had been absent for 17 years. But I refused. Perhaps I had longed for such family affection before. But I don't need it anymore now. I saw Linda in prison. She looked old and haggard, and it was hard to tell that she was the same age as me. As soon as she heard me call her name, Linda went crazy and kept shouting and cursing through the partition. "You were pretending after all, you fake victim bitch." But I just calmly showed her my admission notice and told her, "Linda, I'm going to live a better life. In the future, my life will be filled with flowers, knowledge, and an infinite future. Everyone I meet will be kind and friendly to me, and every friend I make will witness my growth, and you can just rot and stink in this cold prison." Linda screamed and roared wildly and was finally taken back by the prison guards. Later, I heard that Linda tried to escape from prison, but on the way, she met Neil and stabbed him to the point of being semi-disabled in a fit of madness. After that, Linda was caught and taken back. The Chandler family made arrangements in the prison, and Linda was specially cared for by her cellmates every day. In the end, unable to bear the torture, she committed suicide by stabbing her throat with a sharpened toothbrush handle, and the moment I walked out of the prison gate, the sun shone on my body. I seemed to see Sam giving me a thumbs up. He said, "As expected of my sister, you're the best in the world." I also slightly curved the corners of my mouth. Sam was right. There is always a tacit understanding and connection between real siblings. I can feel that you're also very happy now. The road ahead is so long. There will always be a day when time and space intersect and we meet again, and before that, we all need to strive to live a better life. Extra story. Sam didn't meet his sister until more than 2 months after Riley was brought back to the Smith family. It really shows how magical blood relations can be. As soon as Sam saw the stubborn look on Riley's face, he immediately thought of himself when he was a child. There is a telepathic connection between real siblings. When Riley had some little schemes in her mind, Sam knew it too. He thought his sister was extremely cute, but whenever Mrs. Smith mentioned her, she always had a look of disgust on her face. She said, "You don't know. She grew up in that kind of place and picked up all sorts of terrible bad habits." Was Riley bad? Sam didn't think so. She was not as bad as Linda. When they were young, Linda wanted the little boy next door to play with her. When the little boy refused, Linda broke his toys, and she even accused the boy of bullying her first. As a result, the boy got an extra beating. At that time, Sam, who witnessed all this, just couldn't figure out how such a person could be his sister. Later, Linda started to set her sights on Sam. When Sam didn't cooperate with her, Linda framed him, from childhood to adulthood. He didn't know how many times he had been framed by Linda's tricks, and now, she was using the same tricks on Riley. Of course, Sam wanted to help Riley. Unfortunately, the two of them with their straightforward personalities couldn't compete with Linda's scheming. The two stubborn and straightforward people couldn't come up with many persuasive words no matter how hard they tried. So later, when Sam flew back abroad, he specially took a book titled How to Have a Correct and Crazy Argument with him. Those are things that happened later, during the summer vacation before Riley entered her senior year of high school. Sam once accused Mrs. Smith, believing that they shouldn't be so biased towards Linda. "Where am I being biased? They both have the same food, clothing, and daily necessities. I haven't treated anyone unfairly." Mrs. Smith responded in this way, "Really? Then why in these days? I bought Riley's clothes, I picked out her favorite dishes, and I took her to choose the stationery for school. It was after you did all these things for Linda that I imitated you and did the same for Riley. After so many times, you never gave priority to Riley in any of these things. Is this what you call not being biased?" Perhaps Sam's expression was too stern, and Mrs. Smith couldn't hold it together for a moment. She shouted at Sam, "She's just a girl who has gone bad in the slums. She's not half as good as my Linda. What's wrong with me considering Linda's feelings a little more? Not as good as Linda, right?" Sam was so angry that his voice was shaking. He slapped the table. "Since she's not as good as your Linda, then when I'm strong enough, I'll go and change our surnames with Riley, and then take her far away. If Linda goes back to her biological father in the future, You'll be left with no children, and you'll be cut off from your descendants and suffer a great deal. Mrs. Smith was so angry that she wanted to chase after Sam and beat him. Sam ran ahead, and Riley followed closely behind. He knew that Riley had heard the conversation between him and Mrs. Smith, and he felt a little sad, but Riley didn't seem to care. She looked at Sam with bright eyes. She said, "Brother, I'll study hard. You have to come and take me away soon." Sam felt a rush of warmth in his heart. He said, "Okay, it's a deal. I will definitely take you away in the future." But this promise became a lie, because he couldn't fulfill it after all. Sam had only been abroad for a year, and the next thing he heard was Riley's death news. When he rushed back to the country, Riley had already been buried. He asked around how Riley had died, but he could only get vague answers. Sam also became dispirited because of this. Finally, on a rainy night, he saw Riley's ghost. There is a telepathic connection between real siblings. He had always believed in this, so when he pleaded with the gods and got the possibility of a do-over, he didn't hesitate to return to the Smith family. At that time, Linda was already engaged to Neil. The two of them were on the high platform, just like a couple, receiving the blessings of everyone. Sam walked up with a knife in his hand. In the dark, he heard a voice. "What you do to her today will come back to you in the future. Are you sure you want to do this?" Sam smiled and said, "Do you not have a little sister in your family?" The voice fell silent. Sam continued on his own. "If you had a sister, you would understand that as a brother, I can't stand to see my sister suffer even the slightest grievance. Moreover, she had experienced the injustice of this world, but the bad guys didn't receive any retribution. Then, he would seek justice for her. If possible, he also wanted to help her fight for a brilliant life. Brother can argue really well now, Riley. Brother is here to save you." Before he walked up without hesitation, he heard that sigh in the dark again. That voice told him that after all the karma was repaid, all the confused stories would be restarted. So, the road ahead is so long, different time and space will eventually intersect. At that time, the two siblings who should have grown up carefree will meet again. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.